endless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent. I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent. I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness, and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering, and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness, and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering, and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness, and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering, and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. Bhadra Samaja, Bhadra Samaja, Bhadra Samaja. Protectors of all sentient beings without exception, deities who vanquish the ruthless hordes of Maras, knowers of everything as it is, Bhagavans and your retinues, please come here. Argyam Padyam Pushpe Dupe Aloke Gende Nevede Shabda Pradija Soha. This ground sprinkled with scented waters and strewn with flowers, adorned with the supreme mountain, four continents, sun and moon, I hold in mind as a Buddha land, and offer it. May all wandering beings experience such a pure realm. Whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. Now please turn to the general laying aside text. This is the confession and purification practice. So through this practice, invoking the presence of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, or if that's not so easy, then just a single deity, Vajradhara, in the space in front of us. Vajradhara being the union of all Buddhas, of past, present, and future, the essence of all the teachers that we have, all those who guide us on the path. So in their presence, whatever lapses, whatever negative karma we have created, whatever that we have created, that becomes an obstacle for us, especially an obstacle for the path, and then we expose, then we confess in the presence of Vajradhara, the union of all Buddhas. Especially if you think about Kyopa's early community, at one point it said that 525,000 plus disciples were all gathered in Drigwontil. And Kyopa Rinpoche routinely would send these people far away. And in fact, no more communication, after receiving instructions from him, he would send them far away into solitary practice. And so, it's not the case that you can just go knock on the Guru's door, even if you know that Guru, as Kyopa Rinpoche, is Buddha. You want to go do your confession. You cannot just, turn up and say, hey, listen to my confession, help me clean, because essentially we have to train to experience and trust, the Buddha's blessing powers are everywhere. And so if we bring our mind to them, if we bring our mind to Vajradhara, if Vajradhara is too abstract, maybe for some of us, if it's kind of abstract, then think Buddha Shakyamuni, then think, Kyopa Chikten Sumgun, and then, maybe it becomes less abstract, right? It doesn't matter, there's no contradiction. We should not take, these wordings of our practices so literally. Understand the essence, grasp the essence, and then the conditions we have to adapt, skillfully adapt into particular situations. And situations change, situations are evolving, situations sometimes are deteriorating, and not just evolving upwards and deteriorating downwards. If you know how to practice Dharma, then in all circumstances, you know the flexibility. Rigidity is the opposite of a workable mind. And rigidity is just the opposite of what is called a workable mind. So we want to make our minds, our hearts workable. That means pliable. That means flexible. And the more we don't see how a rigid mind, even the rigidity that we bring, into our practice, right, is simply this this obstacle, that in the end is what's is related to self-grasping. Again, the problem of self-grasping is not that you like yourself. It's not even that. People equate that with like ego. Oh, I have ego. I have ego. Ego is not. Is so imprecise. Often, we think, oh, ego is the problem. Ego is the problem. And when we walk around thinking like that, ego is the problem. Ego is the problem. Often, what keeps this alive is actually a desire to become altruistic, a desire to be super person like Jesus, like Buddha. In other words, a desire to be in the spotlight, to be recognized as loving, to be recognized as a great practitioner, to be recognized as wonderful, to be... What is that? That is suffering. That is grasping. So whether grasping at, oh, I have ego, I have ego, I have ego, and grasping at, oh, I want to be like Buddha, I want to be this, I want to be that. All of this is part and parcel of the grasping that we have to work on dispelling. So rather than getting so, watch out for how we focus so much on the nouns. Nouns, now grammar word, okay? My English pronunciation sometimes confuses people. Watch out for nouns. Pay more attention to verbs. Leave nouns alone. Try to see more and more that the nouns are just labels, right? Identities, likes and dislikes. Self-image that has been built and built and built, confusion upon confusion, to come up with nouns. Focus more naturally on verbs. Actions of body, speech, and mind. Actions in process. See how actions form experiences. Experiences solidify identities. Identities that exist in the form of nouns. And then once there's noun, the most self and other are the two basic nouns. Instead of that, look at it from selfing and othering. See how selfing is happening. See how othering is happening. As they are happening. The process of self-making, selfing. The process of othering. Making others more solid as we solidify sense of self. Selfing and othering, back and forth, back and forth. See that process. And remember the Buddha's instructions. That there are no inherently existing selves and others. But there is a whole mess of selfing and othering. So when we do these confession, purification practice, There is the confession of the relative level, which is the words that we are using here. Then there is the confessing, that is the ultimate level, and they both work hand in hand. Not one is better than the other. Through confessing as a relative method, we realize the ultimate of confessing. And the ultimate, through remembering some keywords, at least now it's just words, but through remembering some keywords on the ultimate, such as all stains are adventitious. All stains, all obscurations are not realities. They are mistakes that are temporarily arising, and therefore they have no essence, and therefore they don't have real power over us. It's a matter of releasing them, letting them go. Then your relative confession, purification practice is based on the ultimate purification, which is the purity of Buddha nature, which is the purity of the Idam state, which is the purity of the Guru's mind and your own mind, which is the natural state, which is Mahamudra. Alas, great Guru Vajra holder, and all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who reside in the 10 directions and 3 times, I, who am called Kunju Yishi Durje, supplicate you, turn your awakened attention to me. From beginningless samsaric time until this very moment, under the power of the afflictive emotions, attachment, aggression, confusion, pride, and jealousy, I have committed the 10 non-virtuous actions through the gates of my body, speech, and mind. I have committed the 5 heinous crimes and the 5 secondary heinous crimes. I have transgressed the individual liberation vows, transgressed the precepts of bodhisattvas, and transgressed the samayas of the great vehicle secret mantra. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards the 3 jewels. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my gurus and teachers. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my father and mother. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my companions in the pure spiritual life. I have abandoned the sublime Dharma and disparaged the noble Sangha. In short, I now lay aside all faults and transgressions whatsoever that have become obstacles to the higher realms and to liberation, and that have become the cause for samsara and the lower realms. Before you, the great Guru Vajra holder, and all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and 3 times, I expose the faults, I confess them, I am contrite, I regret them, I will not conceal them, I will not hide them. Henceforth, I will restrain myself and abstain from them. If I do not expose and lay them aside, they will not be transformed. Therefore, by revealing and laying them aside, may they be cleared, may I be purified. Namo to the mandala of you, victorious Idam deities. I expose and confess the broken samayas of the Vajra exalted body. I expose and confess the broken samayas of the Padma exalted speech. Hum, I expose and confess the broken samayas of the perfect exalted mind. Hri, I expose and lay aside the broken root and branch samayas. I expose and lay aside transgressions committed knowingly. I expose and lay aside transgressions committed unknowingly. The three non-virtues of the body, the four non-virtues of speech, the three non-virtues of the mind, and confess each of the 10 non-virtues individually with faultless disciplined conduct, possessing completely pure disciplined conduct. And through the disciplined conduct that is free of arrogance, may the paramita of disciplined conduct be perfected to glorious Vajrasattva. I pay homage. Om Bhadra Sattva Samaya Manubalaya Bhasa Sattva Denopa Dida Dida Meba Vasudakaya Meba Subukaya Meba Vanura Dome Mova Savasida Meba Yaja Savakama Suja Majaram Dranguru Hao Magama Savatanakata Besama Bhasa Sattva Denopa Dida Dida Meba Sudakama Subukaya Mavandana Deva Savadama Dida Meba Sudakama Subukaya Mavandana Deva Savasida Majaram Savakama Suja Majaram Dranguru Om Bhajra Sada Samaya Manubala Om Bhajra Sada Samaya Manubala Didame was a room as a boy, Bhajra Sada Samaya Manubala Baza, the Nomadina, the name was a look as a boy, and the other was a major Om Bhajra Sada Samaya Manubala Baza, the Nomadina, the name was a look as a boy, and the other was Chiram Sri Guru Hao, Magavan Savandana Besama, Mujabesama, Samaya. Deda member was Sudoka, was a Boga, and the other members of was Umbazara Sato Samaya Manubala, but the Robadina, the members of the Boga, and the other. Anura Domemo was the members of a composition of Anura Dome was always in the majors of a composition of Basara Sada de Nobody that the Dome was Doga, was a Boga, and the Dome was always in the majors of Basara Sada Samaya Manabala, the Nobody that the Dome was a Doga, was a Boga, and the Dome was always Basara Sada Samaya Manabala, the Nobody that the Dome was always a Basara Sada Samaya Manubala, Chidam Srayang Guru Hong Hao, Magavan Sabandana Mahazamaya Sadam Basada Samaya Manabalaya Basada Bahazra Sada Samaya Manubalaya Basada Bahazra Sada Samaya Manubalaya Chidam Srayang Guru Magavan Sabandana Sudokaya member was Subokaya member on the memos of Umbazara Sadosame Manubalaya Mazar, the members of the members of Bogaya member on the other members. Chiram Siram Guru Maganza Mandana Umbazara Sadosame. Sarvasiddhi Mebhaja Samagama Sujami Jidam Bajrasa Dosama Yamanda Sarvasiddhi Mebhaja Samagama Sujami Jidam Subhokaya. Bezama Memacha Bezama. Chidam Ziram Guru. Sudokaya. Sudokaya. Savasana Bezama. So the Fivefold Mahamudra, the famous Fivefold Mahamudra song that Kyoba Rinpoche composed, the first stanza is, if the steed of loving kindness and compassion does not run for the benefit of others, it will not be rewarded by gods or humans. Attend earnestly, therefore, to this foundational attitude. So we cultivate loving kindness and compassion in stages. Then, with the power of loving kindness and compassion, we then give rise to bodhicitta, relative bodhicitta, in its aspiration and application aspects. Then this bodhicitta becomes so bodhicitta is strictly speaking, right? Bodhicitta on the relative level is a vow. It's a strong, right? A vow in the sense of a very strong commitment, a strong focus, of strong dedication. So actually, even though, for example, it says, I think when we divide relative bodhicitta into aspiration and application, sometimes we may think, application bodhicitta means the action part. Yes, of course, the action part. But actually, more here, it's a commitment to the action part, a vow to the application part. It's not application itself. Application itself, in the end, is what's will bring result, of course. The application, if you want to think of this more kind of, in a more exacting way, the application is, the practice of idam, the practice of guru, practice of natural state Mahamudra, and the practice of dedication. In that sense, that's the actual application. But in the bodhicitta section, we are generating bodhicitta. We are giving rise to this vow, this determination, this commitment, this focus. And a focus on achieving the goal, and a focus on doing what's necessary, the application. So strictly speaking, the first of the 5 parts or 5 branches of the 5 elements of this Fivefold Mahamudra, when we say application bodhicitta, we are making the vow, the determination, the commitment to the practice which then takes us to the application. And the first application is to cultivate our self as the idam. In this case, ourselves as idam is co-emergent Chakasamvara in the aspects of Heruka and Varahi together. Heruka and Varahi arising together, hence they are called emergent, co-emergent. Hence they're called co-emergent, because Heruka, the masculine aspect, the method, skillful method aspect, and Varahi, the feminine aspect, the wisdom aspect, are united, co-emerging, arising together. Emptiness and appearance arising together. The empty aspect of the mind and the appearing aspect of the mind arising together. Likewise then, when we perceive whatever we perceive, we understand that what we perceive are these appearances. The nature of these appearances is emptiness. And so then all appearances also become co-emergent. Or not that they become, right now they are co-emergent. But our realization of that, our not forgetting that, our always experiencing that co-emergent nature is what then transforms and blesses all of this into the natural mandala of the co-emergent, co-emergence as the natural mandala. At the idam level of training, or the idam aspect of training, we're training with pure appearances. So that it doesn't just it doesn't become lopsided. When we train in natural Mahamudra, we're training in the essence, mostly training in the essence level, especially at the beginning of that. And then idam, we're training in the appearances level of things. Then, of course, towards the end of the natural state Mahamudra training, we train simultaneously in appearance and emptiness being inseparable. Finally, being able to experience more directly the co-emergent nature of all phenomena. So if we look at our manual, we have learned something, right, about the co-emergent Chakasamvara practice. In this early, again a reminder, in this Nirnipa, which is the kind of nickname, you could say, for Choki Gyalpo, the throne holder called Choki Gyalpo. Choki Gyalpo his Mahamudra manual is you could say, the earliest extensive Mahamudra manual that we still have today. And so, in a way, it is not so, if you want to say, polished, because later standards become more and more fancy. It becomes more polished, more kind of evenly kind of edited in later versions. But I purposely chose this version because I think we need to kind of work on some rigidities that we have. And it's good, to be using a text that is, a little bit like not all so, this and then this and then this and then this and then this. Anyway, to point out something in this text here, the idam aspect. I said that the system of understanding creation stage by applying what is known as the 5 manifest awakenings, manifest realizations, abhisambodhi, ongondo. It's like the 5 manifest realizations, the 5 manifest awakenings, the 5 abhisambodhi is, what are the 5? The abhisambodhi of emptiness, the abhisambodhi of sun and moon, the abhisambodhi of the mudra, the symbol, the object, right? And then the abhisambodhi of the syllable, and then the perfectly formed, the abhisambodhi of the perfectly appearing form, appearance. So in our text, what is explicit is the abhisambodhi of emptiness, so on page 26, within the state of emptiness. In more detailed Chakasamara practice, how we get to that state of emptiness, aside from like Om Shunyata Gyana Vajraswabhava Amakohang, right? Above, on page 26, above there. And there are instructions given that are not, in this text. Even in later sadhanas, they all begin with that dissolving into emptiness mantra. But how you dissolve into emptiness, there are more detailed instructions, but not necessary in a way when we are doing it in the context of the Fivefold. But you should know, right? It has to do with rehearsing, you could say, the stages of dissolution of this lifetime. When we reach the end of this life, if you are fortunate enough not to die a sudden death, most of us hope, die a sudden death, don't need to feel the pain. But from the perspective of a practitioner, it's no, may I not have a sudden death. Not that may I have a painful death, may I not have a sudden death, may death not be painful, and mainly may I be able to recognize all the stages of dissolution. And so you actually rehearse these stages of dissolution in the context of sadhana practice, of idam practice, until the mind reaches it's called the meeting of the child clear light with the mother clear light. And at that point, Om Shunyata Gyana Vajra Swabhava Atma Kohang, meditate that all phenomena are emptiness, free from the extremes of conceptual elaborations. So this is the first abhisambodhi. Second abhisambodhi in our text, which is the abhisambodhi of sun and moon, that's more elaborate here, because not just sun and moon, it begins with the elements, with Mount Meru, and then with the lotus, then with the cross vajra placed inside this lotus, then with the moon, and then the sun. On page 27. So this abhisambodhi is elaborated into not just sun and moon, but everything leading up to, or in this case, moon first, on top of moon, sun. So that's the second. The third and the fourth, not so clear in our text. In fact, not explicitly, the third is not explicitly mentioned. The fourth is. The third is the mudra. Here, mudra means the implement that symbolizes the deity. In the case of Chakasamvara, it's the blue-colored vajra. In later texts, that vajra is mentioned explicitly. Here it's not. Which is just to show that in the early days, these texts are just kind of very, brief, kind of very pithy. They are almost like cliff notes, as we would say. Summarized notes of what you should be doing when you cultivate. Then the fourth is here. In the center of that light radiates from the letter hung. That's the syllable. That's the fourth Abhisambodhi. So Vajra, blue Vajra, not mentioned here. That's the third Abhisambodhi. And that is the mind aspect. Then the syllable is the speech aspect. First, the mind aspect is formed, so to say. It's realized. Then the speech aspect is realized, the syllable hung. And then the exalted body. So exalted mind is realized by cultivating the symbol. Here, it's the blue Vajra. Then the exalted speech, which is the fourth Abhisambodhi, is cultivated by meditating, cultivating the syllable hung, which is inside this blue Vajra, in the belly of the Vajra, so to say. Then this seed syllable has its elaboration, has its details, like going out, clearing the physical universe, transforming the physical universe into a perfect mandala of Chakasamvara. Light comes reabsorbed, light goes out, transforming all the beings of samsara into the deities of the Chakasamvara universe. Light comes back in. Then now the seed syllable and Vajra transforms into the fully perfected body. Now is the exalted body realization, which is very detailed, right? The deity, Jagasamvara, Heruka, Vajavarahi, they are described. That's the fifth Abhisambodhi, the fifth manifest realizations. Any questions regarding this? Clear enough? Practically speaking, at the beginning, it's just having this even vague sense, when you're doing this, oh yes, there are these 5 awakenings. Then over time, let the 5 awakenings become more and more explicit in a more natural way. Don't begin by too much trying to figure out all the details. begin by understanding, this is actually purifying the process of dying in the last lifetime, entering the intermediate state, wandering through the intermediate state, taking rebirth in the next lifetime. That's the main thing you should understand by this 5 awakenings. The 5 awakenings are the 5 confusions right now. When we die in the last lifetime, instead of recognizing the dissolution as like the dissolution of all the coarse afflictive emotions, they become more subtle. Instead of experiencing that, we are experiencing loss, regret, terror, disappointment, fear, all those things, unfinished business. Continuing to do the prayer that Jigten Simgan teases us about, the worldly prayer, oh, my relatives, please save me now. Oh, my dear husband, please save me now. Oh, my dear kids, grandkids, oh, my pet, please save me now. Please deliver me from the fears of the bardo. Oh, my success, please save me. Oh, my bank account, please save me. Oh, the memory of me that will continue after I die, please save me. We make those prayers. We hope those objects of refuge is going to deliver us when we most need them, but they have no power. Then in a confused way, we enter the bardo, we wander through the bardo. Then in a confused way, we see our future father and mother. Of course, we don't recognize them. Here's the point. We don't recognize that these are our future father and mother. But we have the habitual, the karmic connection to them that drives us there. And then we have the imprint of remembering the bliss or pleasure that arises, from sexual union. And then we are attached to that, we are addicted to that, so we go there. So it says then, attachment and aversion arises towards these 2 people. When we identify in wanting to be either this person or that person, so this is a couple of thousand years before Freud, There's some Freudian stuff here, but it's before Freudian is Buddha, describing how ordinary conception takes place. So then that is the sun and moon awakening. And then how the mind first latches onto the essence of father, essence of mother in terms of the physical essence, latches onto that. That's the sun and moon there. When it latches on, when it succeeds in latching on, taking possession of sun and moon, so to say, which is the sperm and the ovum, not the actual substance, but the energy of the latches on, then coarse mind begins to form. From the subtle mind that is in the bardo state, now it begins to coalesce, it begins to become coarser. Then speech develops, meaning like speech, not just external speech, internal thoughts. So mind in its most subtle is still not formed, so but then speech forms, and then finally body forms. The development of the embryo, the fetus, into 10 months. 42 weeks. It works out to be 9.5 months, closer to the 10 month. Although we say 9 months, Anywhere from 37 to 42, it's like the normal range. Anyways, these 10 months is said to be, you need to recognize them and experience them as the 10 bhumis of bodhisattvas. So that at the 11th, at birth, a perfect Nirmanakaya is born. So this is the idam method. Using the Abhisambodhi. Now, of course, this is a lot of information. Don't expect, don't need to try to cram all this into, at the beginning. Just at the beginning, just have this in the background. These are the 5 manifest awakening to counteract the 5 confusions, which is like the opposite of the normal way of how we are conceived. Normal way, again, we're driven by the karmic winds of attachment, aversion, and ignorance, confusion towards future father and mother. Here, aspiration and application bodhicitta drives us towards manifesting as the perfect body, speech, and mind of the idam. So when we cultivate bodhicitta, it's the equivalent of forming habitual patterns, forming karmic winds, but skillful karmic winds, so to say. So that we are not blown by the ordinary karmic winds that push us towards our next rebirth. So pushed by immeasurable loving kindness and compassion, we go in the direction of Buddhahood. Arriving there, seeing the father and the mother as Heruka and Varahi. And then in other, more detailed idam practice, they even have things like you elaborating on the conception. You turn yourself into, like, say, this vajra or a drop or a bindu. You enter the father's mouth and go in down to the body of the father. Father is in the male, the masculine deity. You go into the father's body, comes out from the father and goes into the mother's womb. Conception in more detail, how you take rebirth. But in practicing the Fivefold Mahamudra, in the context of arranging this our practice in the Fivefold Mahamudra, we don't need to at this point at least, do it in such a detailed way. We need to grasp the principle. And then here, cultivating the guru as the next, right? If you go to page 33, accomplishing the guru as nirmanakaya. Accomplishing the guru as sambhogakaya, and accomplishing the guru as dharmakaya. A few generations later, when this basic manual is, worked over and, more kind of editing and all that, you have a fourth accomplishing the guru as swabhavika kaya. So the guru, four kayas. But in this manual, we have only nirmanakaya, sambhogakaya, and dharmakaya. To be explicit. Only three kayas. So here, accomplishing the guru as nirmanakaya, it says, first you have to be the idam. So maintaining your from the last element, yourself as co-emergent, Chakasamvara, Heruka and Varahi in union. Then in the space in front, above the crown of your head, here it says, upon a throne supported by 8 lions on a multicolored lotus moon disc, sits lotus and moon. So no sun here. Moon disc. Sits your own root guru, who is the Lord of the teachings. Lord of the teachings is a common way of referring to Buddha Shakyamuni. This term, Lord of the teachings, is not simply given to just about any enlightened being. So when it says Lord of the teachings, you should understand it's talking about Buddha Shakyamuni. Tempe Dakpo, Lord of the teachings. So now, a brief description of Buddha Shakyamuni. Body is refined gold, and the color sits in the Vajra posture. 2 hands are in a gesture of meditative equipoise. One side on the left side, like this, and right side touching the earth. The typical representation of Buddha Shakyamuni on the eve of his enlightenment. He's wearing the 3 Dharma robes, reddish color, reddish yellow, like the color of saffron. These are the color of these 3 robes. And interestingly, here it says his Ujnisha is invisible. Usually this kind of, in artistic representation, actually, it's a little exaggerated, And most of us kind of think, oh, this is like somehow all monks have to cut their hair. Somehow Buddha has this bun of hair up here, I think it's just, we've become so used to seeing Buddha represented like this, right? That we don't really even think, wait, what is that? That is said to be actually a flesh growth, So probably, people who saw Siddhartha only saw it as a slightly kind of bump, Not like this, how it's represented now. Interesting, right? Even something as basic as that we become rigid, even without realizing, oh, it looks like that. Here it says it's invisible. So like the head is almost like an ordinary person's head. It's invisible, but you know it's there. Because this actually is a symbol of the perfected wisdom of the Buddha. So it's said to protrude, protuberance. Ushnisha is sometimes translated into English as protuberance. Nobody ever uses this word. I don't know what other context. A protuberance, like a protruding, you know. I think it's based on like the idea that, you know, his brain is so big, you know, that the head cannot contain. So it pushes up a little. Interestingly, in evolution analysis of like the human face, you know, what is happening, they say, is like as human beings evolve, you know, even millions of years ago, this has already become a problem. Meaning, as our brains become bigger, there is a competition for real estate. Here, competition for real estate results in what? Our teeth not having enough space, being pushed out by brain, and so teeth become crooked. And so orthodontists today have business because our brains are getting bigger and bigger. Interestingly, they say Buddhas have 40 teeth as one of the signs of a superior person. But us, because we have not enough space, you know, not enough real estate, they are wisdom teeth to be pulled out. I don't know where that comes from, wisdom teeth, where that name comes from in English. What's the origins of that? Someone can Google and tell me later. So Buddhas are supposed to have 40 perfect, no orthodontist needed. So somehow Buddha's head, you know, has more real estate. Here, Ushnisha is invisible. He's adorned with the major and minor marks of a Buddha, which the Ushnisha is one of the major marks, but then here it says it's invisible, but he is adorned with the, again, you know, don't be so rigid. It means the major and minor marks, in which there are 32 major marks. Major means obvious. 80 minor, subtle marks, altogether 112. These 112 are 112 inner qualities that have their outer signs, outer reference. So there are several different sutras that try to, that gives, that correlates between this particular physical sign is an outer sign of this particular inner quality. You can find sutras that do that. So anyway, page 35, imagine him seated there, surrounded by the root and lineage gurus. So the form is the form of Buddha Shakyamuni, but you should think that this is the essence of your root guru. Then above your root guru is your root guru's root guru. Above your root guru's root guru is your root guru's root guru's root guru, all the way back to the actual Buddha Shakyamuni, and then even all the way back to primordial Buddha, usually in the form of Vajradhara, and surrounded by other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the hosts of Idam deities. So this is the Nirmanakaya Guru appearing in the Nirmanakaya form of Buddha Shakyamuni. Then the instructions here say, pay homage, and then with clouds of Samantabhadra's offerings, make perfect outer, inner, and secret offerings, and also perform the 7-branch prayer, including confessing misdeeds, offer mandala, and finally do this prayer. So here, again, at this stage of the development of these manuals, this is really just like more like abbreviated notes, because the prayers and the offerings you have to do, it's not here. People have to learn it from other sources and probably memorize already by the time you engage in this practice. And the original context is for people who do this full time, or at least more than a couple of hours a day. So I have added these as an appendix, as appendices at the end of this text. Probably some other adjustments need to be made, and added it from a 17th century. This is from the 14th century, but from a 17th century influential Fivefold Mahamudra text by Drigong Chokyi, how he arranges these prayers and offerings in his text. I have pulled them from that text and to put it as appendices for us. So this is very kind of brief, and in fact there's not much more to say in terms of the actual practice of the Nirmanakaya Guru. But the whole notion, right, the whole understanding of Guru and the role of Guru, we will be focusing on that. In Kyoba Rinpoche's time in the 14th century, people could more easily understand this, and also more easily understand this means they don't also mean they don't have wrong understanding and all the complications of relying on the Guru has become very complex for us. And we will be looking at that in a more detailed way. So I shared another document with you, remember, on the WhatsApp chat group, that document. So please look at that, and then we will start. The title of that text is like an essentialized collection of treasuring the Guru's instruction, part 1. So an excerpt from a longer text. There, Kyoba Rinpoche says, explains the logic and the necessity of relying on Guru, and what are the qualifications of Guru, what is the function of the Guru, and many other places. He also taught about this. It's just that is something that we have translated. I thought we could maybe use that as a way to anchor what we are going to look at on this topic of the Guru. Any questions before we end today? I was right about not making it in time yesterday. Maybe created the conditions of not making it. I was supposed to get home on Monday night at around 11. Just as when I was going to Guatemala, I got stuck in Fort Worth, Dallas airport for one night. Well, I didn't stay in the airport. They gave me a room. But then even that, I had to get up at 2:45 a.m. to go back to the airport. On the way back, on Monday night, where I was supposed to get back, I got stuck in Charlotte Airport, which is half an hour flying to Asheville. But for that one, they kept delaying until 1 a.m. Then they said, flight cancelled. The scary part about this is the plane, the actual physical plane was supposed to get on. Finally, they said, okay, we can't use this plane because it's missing a part, right? I mean, how is it missing? Did it fall out of the sky? Who knows, right? It's missing a part and they are looking for the part. Until finally they say, okay, we can't fix this in time, so we'll switch you to a different plane, go to a different gate. And we get to the gate and the plane that we're supposed to fly out of has not arrived yet. And and you think, oh, good news, right? It's not arrived yet. Once it arrives, we can get on it and we'll be on our way. So yes, half an hour later, the plane arrives, flies in from Cleveland, Ohio, flies in, and they announce, once everyone has deplaned and the new crew comes and goes in and checks everything, then we will be ready to board everyone. Guess what? This plane is missing a part. So how often are we flying all over the place with parts missing? Maybe we should not think about it. And make sure your POWA skills is always fresh. I mean, the plane arrived, but this next pilot went in and checked and said an important part is missing. We do live dangerously. It's just that we don't know how dangerously we live. So I prefer the version of it's not that a part is missing. I prefer that version. My own conspiracy theory is that there are some other things going on and they just simply, it's probably due to staffing, due to, they hire a fake pilot looking person to go in the plane, go sit in the plane for a while, make announcement, oh, sorry, found a part that is missing. And then you feel like, oh, thank goodness, we're not flying with the part missing. Oh, good. I think it's some other things going on. I don't like to think, I mean, with so many parts missing, people should be reporting being hit by parts falling from the sky, All the planes that fly across the US, they are not flying across oceans. So these parts didn't fall into oceans. So anyway, finish my rant. So I got here yesterday. By the time I got home, it's around noon. Actually, I landed at around, 10 something, 11. And why? Because a bag was missing. Okay, should have dedicated before complaining. Now all the merit might be gone. So page 78. The instructions actually say, like, so think about all this, like mishaps and all this, and then you think, with ourselves experiencing this, may no one else, have to experience this. And this is a skillful way of, transforming adversities. Judy's virtual hand has been going up and up.
Missing part.
Yes, missing part or extra part. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by me in the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtues, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. Changchu Sem Cho Rinpoche Ma Ge Ba Nam Ge Gyu Che Ge Ba Nyam Pa Me Pa Yang Gong Ne Gong Du Bel Wan Shu. So, just quickly, so this, we will continue to meet at least until the 19th, next Friday, at least until then. Then I know Christmas is always that week. It may be a busy time for everyone, traveling and this and that. We may not meet that week of Christmas. But then on the 29th, I do plan to start again. And then I leave to go to Cusco. But when I'm in Cusco, probably I can continue this while I'm in Cusco, because same time zone, just different season. It's summer there. Then February 7th, is when I leave for Asia, and that's when it becomes more complex or complicated to try to meet. But we'll see how it all plays out. Just so you have an idea of how this is going to be as we get into these months. Okay, bye-bye. See everyone tomorrow.